James is not there. We're still just getting some of the drivers in. The tyres now obviously have cooled down quite a lot, so this outlap will be extremely slippery. So you'll expect to see lots of weaving, lots and lots of weaving, maybe slamming the brakes on, accelerating hard to try and get a bit of warmth in the tyres. But no one's going to have an advantage or disadvantage. It's the same for everybody. But expect the lap times in this qualifying and throughout this next heat or two to be not quite as fast as they were before.
Absolutely, Carl. I mean, of course, the karts have been stood there. The temperatures will be down a bit. The track temperature, it is quite cold. I mean, it is January, and you know, we're dealing with a concrete track, so it's going to be a little bit cooler. The track does warm up a bit as the karts are pounding around it. There's very little gap between the heat races themselves, except for this one, of course, where we had a fuel stop, and the karts have been stationary, so the engines have been off, the tyres have not been turning, and they've not been, you know, keeping the temperature in the track as well. Now here we are having a look down there. There's David Kart there in the green helmet. Very highly rated Polish driver, came over in the early new year purely to practice, and so we saw him out in practice putting on a sterling performance. Now there's Brad Philpott in the red and blue and black helmet with on the far side there, as we're sort of focusing on these two drivers a little bit closer. But Brad Philpott was the originator of is the originator of BRKC. He's still really the front man, the poster boy, if you like. And Brad Philpott, there's Sean Brierley in the background behind David Kart, and there's Philpott himself. And Brad Philpott, really the one who started the whole BRKC thing, and it's really grown over these last 10 years. Brad's certainly very proud, but he is a very strong competitor in his own championship, so much so that he has got to be considered as a potential candidate for a final position. Whether or not to win overall, I'm not sure, but and there's Derek Jones just giving the thumbs up in the number 10 kart there. Derek Jones now a bit of a regular part of the establishment here at Formula Fast, the BRKC. Now, we're just getting ready, and there's Gary Jones leading them out. So Gary Jones can be the first one out. It's going to be on his warm-up lap. Carl Powell's expecting the karts to be moving around a little bit more. Weaving around is... We all think it makes a difference, but it's not been proven to, has it? Jamie Henderson, would you be trying to weave around a bit, if nothing for your own brain, rather than for what it's actually doing to the kart?
Yeah, it's a psychological thing as well. If I was going out there, I'd be weaving like there's no tomorrow, to be honest with you. I'd be hard on the brakes as well, just trying to get as much temperature in the kart as possible. Best thing to do now would be focus on Sean Brierley and watch what he's doing, especially coming out the snail. Is he on it straight away? Is he taking it like a fast lap, or is he actually going for tie bomb? And the reason I've paused there is we've got somebody stopped at the snail, just got going again, so I think we should be able to go underway with qualifying. A bit of a scare there, but yes, I'll be getting a lot of time.
And it is going to be an issue, because the person who was stopped in the pit lane was in the snail section, was one of the last out, and Gary Jones is close behind him on his qualifying lap. Now, will Gary Jones be affected? Gary Jones was the first one out to qualify. It looks like Gary Jones got enough of a gap. Yes, he has. He's not going to be affected. So the final driver comes through to start the qualifying, but here's Gary Jones. Now, Gary Jones is going to set the initial pace, and what's going on behind him? He's been beaten already by Bandipiro, Matthew Mandipiro, and Powell is into third, but it's still Jones in second. Mandipiro on the provisional pole, and Brad Philpott's gone fastest. Brad Philpott takes the provisional pole. What about Sean Brierley? Has Sean Brierley got an answer? David Kart second, Brierley on the first place there. Sean Brierley into pole position. On screen we can see it's going to be Sean Brierley taking the initial lead at the start from Brad Philpott. David Kart has come through into third place, the highly rated Polish driver. Oh, Matthew Stark, he was the one who was stopped on the opening lap there. He's come through into fourth place. Now, Stark, of course, was the one who was the absolutely karting lightweight champion of last year. We've not seen him before, but certainly he's living up to expectation there with a fourth place start. Guys, this is Matthew Stark. Is no one we've heard of before at the BRKC. He's making his debut, but he's making his debut from fourth place. Lewis Manley, how do you rate the qualifying there?
I expected the top two would be Brierley and Philpott, but Kart, however it's pronounced, it's only 1,000th of Philpott, so that's very close. So as Stark is fourth on the grid. That's the one that had that little moment at the snail, so as he's recovered to fourth. So I do expect the top two might break away, but it depends how number 20 is going to be on him, so they're about to start the race now.
Absolutely, and here comes Sean Briley. He's pacing them to the line. He can't go too fast, he can't go too slow. He's got to judge this right, and he's also got to get on the gas at the right time. He's got on the gas fairly early, and he's taking Philpott with him with David Kart. And Stark, who we mentioned, is continuing in fourth place. So Sean Briley leads the stale section. Philpott's not close enough to mount a challenge, which is exactly what Sean Briley will have wanted. David Kart is all equally not able to challenge Philpott, so this is the cleanest getaway we've seen. Certainly different to some of the earlier races. And it is Sean Briley with the lead down the back stretch as they file through onto that back stretch there. Bringing up the rear is Argulas at the back, and through that final turn there, very, very tight indeed. We've seen some action there. But leading across the line for the first lap is Sean Briley, Brad Philpott, David Kart and Stark, and already maybe a little bit of a gap there to Gary Jones, who has passed Mandipira. That gap has probably been created by the pass that Gary Jones made up. Do we think we're going to get a four-way breakaway here, or is Gary Jones just temporarily held back by that passing move? Jamie Henderson.
It's going to be very interesting to see. I think that they will probably break away the top four simply because they don't seem to be fighting. Sean's very quick. Brad's obviously very experienced at this point. He knows just to stick behind, not to do anything silly, try and stay in the slipstream, try and keep the pace up. It's going to be tricky for Gary Jones to stick with that.
Sorry, Jamie, we're going to go with Carl Power in the pits, an early stopper.
Yep, we've got Christopher Powell in, extremely early stop. That is the earliest you can stop. It looks clean so far, so he obviously wanted to get himself out of the first lap chaos and get on his own and start lapping.
Well, that's going to be very interesting. Powell has taken that very early pit stop. He's now going to be looking to maximise his pace to see if he can leapfrog some of the others. But really, from his point of view, in the mid-pack, he's going to try and get himself out of the mire that could be Jones, Mandipira, Derek Jones and George Massey and Joel Argulas. Now, meantime, we've still got Sean Briley up at the front, but with arguably the biggest lead we've seen. Pulling away from Brad Philpott on an indoor kart track is not easy, but Briley's managing to do that. Lewis Manley, Sean Briley is we're used to seeing epic performances, but this is a very strong showing in these very early laps.
Indeed, he'll already be settling down. I don't know if he said in his interview he was a bit nervous because it's the first race, but that being put on pole position and pulling away a bit from Philpott will settle him down nicely. So he's going to try and continue to pull away and win his first heat. He's looking very good in testing yesterday. He could have made the final last year, but for the pit stop let down. But I can't see him doing that this time. But he is a very strong contender for the final for sure.
Yeah. Sean Briley, an excellent example of someone we've seen before, one of the top runners falling foul of pit stops. It's easy to make errors. Obviously, if he was feeling a little bit nervous earlier on, he's had good reason because he's in the same race as Philpott and David Kart, and already and into the pits. It's the fourth place, Stark.
Yep, so Stark is into the pits. He was hanging on to Kart and Philpott pretty good. It looks like he's got a slight problem. He's trying to adjust his seat as he's going through the pit stop. He still manages to pull off a good pit stop, but he's still fiddling around with his seat and the pedals. Clearly not comfortable.
Right, well, as with all the karts, and certainly at a decent level, the karts are adjustable for seat. Now, what may well have happened there is Stark has been actually unhappy with the seat position for the whole race so far. Coming into the pits, that was a nice kind of slow time with which he can do something about it. He would definitely have lost a lot more time. I mean, guys, you've been out there so far in the practice and during the races. Jamie, fiddling around with the seat on an actual flying lap is going to be a particularly difficult and slowing thing to do. He's obviously used the pit stop, maybe even pitted this early so that he could adjust the seat. The reason for pitting was actually, in his eye, to adjust the seat as much as anything else.
I think that must be the case because, to be honest, it didn't make that much sense to box at that point. You had Gary Jones behind him, who was actually closing in. He's putting in some really good laps, actually, and Chart and Philpott were just starting to edge away from him a little bit as well, so it wasn't particularly advantageous for him to stop at that time. If he has got his seat sorted, then obviously it was the right thing to do. Otherwise, I'm not sure it's going to work out particularly well for him, but we'll see.
Yeah, so an adjustment of the seating position, maybe. We'll find out at the end when if Kyle's able to grab hold of him. But Matthew Stark may well have made a stop there purely to adjust the seat rather than any strategic reason. He was running fourth. Obviously, we don't really know because it's his first BRKC race and his first race against these guys of how he really rates in that position. But certainly we'll see what he can do from the rear because he's up into 8th place listing at the moment, so he's not looking too bad. We'll see how that relates to that lead group though. So in fact there is starting a battle behind Argulas and Powell. By the looks of it, no, sorry, above from Powell, Massey and Argulas there. George Massey trying to make a little bit of a move. Now, Up at the front, we've got Sean Briley. He's got 8 laps now into it, and he's pulling away. He's over a second ahead of Brad Philpott. Now, Brad Philpott is probably more concerned now with David Kart. Meantime, that battle continues on further back there. We've got the 14, which is George Massey. He's ahead of Joel Arguelles. And as they come around the Snell section with Sean Briley leading, there's Brad Philpott, and there is the Polish driver, David Kart. David Kart running third. They are over a second behind the race leader. Sean Briley arguably running away, but in the pits.
Number 19, Joel Arguelles, who is into pits. He was battling with George Massey and also Christopher Powell as well. So, and he comes out just ahead of Sean Briley. Sean's not too happy with that, but he should get a blue flag. This shouldn't hold Sean up.
Yeah, this could be very tight indeed. Sean Briley down the inside. Oh, he's made it. Joel Arguelles there was actually, well, had the potential to help Philpott. As the event organiser, maybe that would have been a smart move, but he's letting everybody through. He's clearly a sportsman, and Joel moves out of the way. The top 3 go on unhindered, and then there's Gary Jones in 4th. Now, Gary Jones, been watching brief in 4th. Do we think that Gary might make up some ground?
Yeah, definitely. I think Brad did get a bit of an advantage there from that little instant at the snail, and he's lapping very quickly. He did go purple lap before last. Sean has responded with a 31.8. This is still definitely a three-car battle for the lead. The man who's standing out for me at the minute is David Chart, who is still sticking with Bradley Philpott, no problem at all. And I actually think if he could get past Brad, he might even have the pace to take on Sean as well, but we'll have to see how things line up. He's going for it. He's gone for a move into the hairpin. Looked really good to me, looked clean. We'll have to see what the organisers say, but that could well be a move that puts him in contention for the win.
An amazing move there by David Kart. David Kart has passed Brad Philpott, series organiser, and champion of the track in Corby, of course, Nürburgring regular, Brad Philpott. Brad Philpott spent many years racing now in the VLN series over at Nürburgring, but he has been passed in this indoor kart event at BRKC in his own championship by David Kart. David Kart may find his entries turned down next year after a move like that, but David Kart certainly an epic move there on Brad Philpott, very clean in fact. He's now trying to make inroads to Sean Briley. He's got 1.5 seconds now, so Briley is going to have to maintain this epic pace. David Kart is now the one who has taken over second place. He's leading the charge towards Sean Briley. Can he do it? Briley's actually extended that lead by 1/10 of a second on this last lap. He's coming round down the backstretch. We'll get a nice visual here down the backstretch. There is Sean Briley, and there is David Kart, Brad Philpott right behind him. Now, will we see Philpott come back at Kart? No, Philpott has probably got the sense to stay with Kart. Maybe even Philpott's going to strategize his way around the problem. He knows that the smartest move, if Kart is that much faster, is going to be to follow him if he can close in on Sean Briley and make it a 3-way contest. Lewis Manley, obviously a gutsy move there by David Kart, passing Philpott. Quite a serious scalp to take that.
Yeah, certainly, very gutsy move. Philpott would have been surprised with that, but I think if he pitted now, he would be in the clear air because he's well over 10 seconds ahead of Derek Jones. It depends how close he is to the number 20. They don't pit the slabs, so they keep going. As Briley's extending his lead a little bit, now 31.7. And now Philpott's a little bit faster, so 31.771 himself. So he's not going to give up for second, that's for sure. So he's going to hopefully get his revenge and pass him again.
Absolutely, and a really strong showing by Sean Briley. He's increasing his lead. He's got up to 1.8 seconds. Can it be 2 seconds on this lap? He's trying to pull himself clear of David Kart and Brad Philpott, their fight over second place. As you alluded to, Lewis Manley, if Philpott or Kart, for that matter, came into the pits now, they would theoretically come out ahead of Derek Jones, who is running in 6th place, and that obviously is what they'll want to see. They certainly wouldn't want to be in any kind of fight at all, because they will be considering where they will be versus Sean Briley. They'll be hoping that Sean Briley does get held up with the best will in the world. Ordinarily, it's the first man through the back markers. It's going to have the work to do. They'll be alive to what's going on. People are responding well to the blue flags, to be fair. And in fact, into the pits now, Kyle Power.
Yep, into the pits we have George Massey, and an honourable note to mention, his qualifying lap was the first laps he's ever done at this place. His turn up at the last minute, he's only been karting for a year, so considering that, he's doing an extremely good job. He has never driven at this place before, apart from the Super Bowl lap. Amazing.
At this level, that's absolutely tremendous, because this really is a high level. We have, drivers of world level, and in indoor karting it doesn't get higher apart from the World Championship itself than the individual national championships, whether that's the Dutch Championship, the Polish Championship, and in this case the British Rental Kart Championship. And so for George Massey to just randomly kind of rock up and put in this kind of performance, yes, he's listed as last at the moment, boys. He did put out of 9th, and anything above being 5 seconds off the pace really is exceptional. This is not a bunch of people who are out for a bit of a giggle on the weekend. This is people who take the karting very seriously indeed. When of course you consider normal outdoor karting these days, huge costs for seasons, so you know, someone competing regularly is spending an enormous amount of money, which rules out most people straight away. With the indoor karting scene, it's normally short events and it's also relatively cheap to do, so really it means a lot more people can do it, so a lot more talent in the mix, and that's what we're seeing obviously up at the front, and certainly we're seeing from George Massey. Don't think that 10th place and 1 lap down right now with a pit stop shows any lack of speed from him. He must be very fast indeed not to be a couple of laps down from Sean Briley now, when you consider that George has been in the pits and Sean hasn't. So meantime, 20 laps into the books there, 9 minutes to go. Sean Briley, David Kart, Brad Philpott, neither of them showing any intention of making the pit stop. And it has to be said that David Kart is managing to just close in on Sean Briley now. If we look at the lap times, it's David Kart who's fastest, but Jamie Henderson, we're seeing David Kart potentially claw back some of Sean Briley's lead here.
Yeah, definitely. It's very, very close for pace between the top 3. We've got someone in the pits.
Derek Jones into the pits, partner in crime to Dwayne Stoddart. Usually in their McLaren seats, he comes out and is going to come out, always going to feed out right into the middle of this lead battle.
And Derek Jones, of course, was the one we were saying that 2 years ago was 91st. Last year was 65th overall in the out of 100 drivers in the BRKC. And if he was finishing mid-pack like this every time, I mean, I was talking to him in the paddock area yesterday, he was still talking like somebody who was running near the tail. But we're seeing a strong midfield showing from Derek Jones. I think he'll be surprising himself, Jamie.
He will be. He'll be loving it out there. Few things to mention. David Kart for 4 laps was quicker than Sean Briley, taking about a tenth of a second out of the lead. That entire advantage he clawed back has just gone because he was unfortunate with Jones coming out of the pits there, but he has got the pace. Like I said, he can certainly be in the mix if he can just get his head down, start eating into that gap again, but Sean can breathe a huge sigh of relief after that.
Yes, that's a new best friend for Derek Jones in the form of Sean Briley, who's currently leading this race. Now, what's interesting, though, of course, David Kart did it before, he can do it again. He knows that, and it's going to take a pretty sharp pit stop. The question is, we have seen, you know, with the best will in the world, Sean Briley, if he has a weak link at all, the weaker area of his armoury would be the pit stop. We've seen him get penalties for pit stops before. There's no question over his speed, there's no question over his skill, there's no question over his ability to keep cool while leading a race, as we're seeing right now. That leaves purely the pit stop. So David Kart, if David Kart can put an exceptional pit stop together, the question will be, will Sean Briley actually try to be quite conservative on a pit stop? The fact that he's built up a 2-second lead, now 2.1, he's doing everything he needs to give himself room for manoeuvre in that pit stop, because the bigger lead Sean Briley can go into the pits with, the more scope he has. We say that, you know, just under 10 seconds is what a good pit stop should be. However, if Sean Briley can get into that pit with a 3 or 4 second lead, he doesn't have to do 10 seconds. He can do a 12-second pit stop and still win the race. And with Sean Briley's relatively hit and miss, we've got one in the pits. Kyle?
Yep, we've got number 13. As Bradley Philpott is into the pit, so he's just tried to pit out. It's looking for a good opportunity to maybe try and catch David Kart unawares. He feeds out just behind number 9, who is Joel Aguilas.
Right, well, the number 9 we've actually got listed as Matthew Mandipira. Now, Mandipira has not pitted, Philpott has, so Philpott coming out of the pits into 5th place on the road, but he has got Mandipira, and I don't think Gary Jones or Kart or Briley, any of them have pitted. So of the top runners, Philpott the only one at the moment to have been in the pits, and Sean Briley, well, puts a lapping move there on what looked like Chris Powell, actually. So, yeah, the Cambridge-based driver. So that's right up to 7th place. Powell is in 7th place at the moment. So Sean Briley, a searing pace. Now, you can see Sean Briley there driving with the raised visor. Obviously, he's not running a clear visor by the looks of it. David Kart, there you can see his visor is down. Obviously, indoor rules allow a driver to run with the visor either cracked or even open. It's not quite as serious as that, but not quite as fast. So, you know, they're not really going to get something in the eye every second corner like you would on outdoor kart track. Now, 5 minutes left to go. Sean Briley 27 laps in, and he's got 1.9 seconds down. So Sean has obviously lost some time. Yes, it is David Kart who has set the new record lap for this race. So David Kart the fastest. That's him in the green helmet. Lewis Manley, there's David Kart on screen. Do you think he can close in, although he's got a kart 17 in front of him?
Yeah, he's just got out of the way now, so that's helped him a bit. It's up 2 seconds, the gap now. Sean Briley's now set a personal best of 31.6, and the gap's now over 2 seconds again. There's not much to go. Those two haven't pitted out. I don't know if there's someone's in the pits.
We've got number 9, and that is Matthew Mandapiro. I got the number wrong before. So, yep, he's had a good first one, good second one. He is another one of the very late additions, so he hasn't had much practice at all, along with Yo Aguilas.
Yes, and he's making a heck of a run. I mean, of those who we weren't considering, you know, outside the Briley, Kart, Philpott and Jones group, Mandapira is the one who's been putting in the best showing. He's pitted out 5th place, and he's resumed in 5th place. He's in front of Stark, surely. We'll do a bit of a rain check on that, but I think Mandapira is coming out of this looking very good indeed. And David Kart trying to get past another driver. We'll just double check who that is. I think that might be Stark, but I'll double check. But anyway, so we'll see what's happening on the scoring bar. I think we've got Mandapira still listed in 5th place, and that's a heck of a showing there on the debutant, as you say, Carl Powell, with very little practice indeed. We're looking at David Kart, the Polish driver. He's turned up as well. He's done quite a bit of practice here. In fact, he's even flown over for practice and then flown back to Poland again with the Zher brothers in the new year. And Sean Briley continues to lead with 30 laps on the books. It's now up to 2.5 seconds to the aforementioned David Kart. Gary Jones up to 3rd. Now, Gary Jones looking good, and surely Jones is going to be probably the next pit visitor. I reckon Briley's going to leave it right till the end, but we have seen Sean Briley, I think, miss the pit window. He can't pit on the last lap. He has to pit before, and we've seen people give away the lead and victory in a race by missing the pit stop window. Lewis Manley, do you find that's easy to do?
Absolutely, yeah, because we saw earlier that someone pitted on the very first lap, which you can't do, and then the second pit stop, and it went yellow on the second box. There's only less than 3 minutes to go now, so they have to pit very soon, because it's so easy mistakes can happen when you forget to pit and stuff, and depends if Briley pits. No, he don't. Nope. So he carries on. 20 looks like, yep, number 20's in the pits.
Yep, David Kart is coming for the pit stop. He doesn't want to take that risk of missing his pit stop. He's having a very good display, and somewhat of a bit of a dark horse in this one. It's jumping, and how is he going to come out in relation to Brad Philpott? Yeah, it's clearly in front of him. Gary Jones also in the number 21. Looks like a good stop. Let's see where he comes out. On his own again, I believe he's going to be in 4th place.
Yeah, and Gary Jones crucially has come out ahead of Mandapira. That was really his rearguard action. And into the pits now.
And
this
looks
like Sean Briley.
Yep, and here's Sean Briley. He's taking it nice and easy. He knows he's got quite a big advantage. There's no need to take any risks. Sensible head. Yep, lovely. He's going to come in, and yeah, he's got a big old lead on him. Yep, it's good.
So we saw there Jamie Henderson, we saw there Sean Briley keeping the revs up, quite heavy punches on the throttle there. Obviously we saw earlier on with race leader and subsequently race winner Selena Balnega almost had a stall there. Sean Briley clearly keen to avoid that. Obviously if he held a little bit of throttle, the danger is of creeping forward, but those punches aren't really going to move the kart forward in the same way, are they?
No, yeah, and you see all the top guys doing it, just a quick punch on the throttle and then the kart stops, quick punch again. It just means that the revs don't die enough to get rid of the engine. That was a really good stop from Sean. It wasn't lightning quick, but it was just exactly what he needed to be quite comfortable in coming out. Well,
he built up the lead that allowed him to do that, and he's had to work his way past a back marker. That does give David Kart a little bit of help, but of course Kart now has to come past the same back marker. However, we've said it before that the first one through is always the one at the disadvantage, therefore the race leader, in this case Sean Briley, on the back end of the straight. Has Kart made it through? Yes, he has. David Kart has now got the leader in his sights. He's in contact with Sean Briley. There's just under a minute now, so potentially this is the final lap. There may be one more. It's done on time. Potentially one more lap to go, but I doubt it. This could well prove to be the last lap. Certainly Sean Briley has a 1.8 second lead, which is enough to win this race if he can just hang in there. No mistakes though, because it's David Kart who's at full speed behind him, and Bradley Philpott is about a second back from there as well, just over a second. But it looks like Sean Briley, who could be coming in to open his account with a win, but it may well be one more lap. We'll just see what the organisers have. They're not bringing out the flag yet. There's going to be one more lap, and David Kart surely is closer than ever before. There's Philpott as well. It looks very close visually. It's 1.8 seconds on the time. It's still 1.8, but a very slightly closer 1.8 if you like. 1.80. There is Kart. There is Philpott. Actually, when you can looking at the times, it looks quite spaced, but when you look on screen, Jamie Henson, that looks very close.
Yeah, he's done a really good job, Chart, during this race. It's just not quite worked with him with the back marks that he's hit at the wrong points in the race. Everyone has acknowledged the blue flags. Check the flags coming out, James.
That's right, and Sean Bradley is going to win the race, and that's the only reason why it's not second place David Kart winning the race, because he is putting the still in form. Brad Philpott is third, Sean Bradley at his formidable best to win this one, and there goes Derek Jones. He's come through in 8th place, and it looks like we've got, yes, Gary Jones is going to be listed in 4th place, and Mandy Pira, with very little practice, has come through in 5th place. An excellent result for him. Matthew Stark, we saw him running a little bit higher, but he has come into 6th place in the final reckoning there. Chris Powell has moved up into 7th. Derek Jones is in 8th. Joel Agou there is in 9th, and George Massey, with no practice at all, is rounding out the 10th. He's 2 laps down, but that is, even in this situation and this level standard here with the BRKC, is a truly epic performance. This is a world-class event. It is a world-class entry with multiple world champions over the years all taking part. Now, as they come in, we're going to go down to Kyle Power. And Kyle, there's going to be some stories coming out of this race, I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to get the top 3, but David Kart has given me a bit of a non-plus look. We'll see how he feels. We'll just let Sean weigh up, and then we'll get an interview with Sean.
In the meantime, Mandy Pira might be a good one if you can grab him with 5th place.
5th place. What colour car suit did he have? Excuse me, because they've already jumped out.
Yeah, he got out of the number 9.
Okay, I've just missed him. Somebody I might do anything. Oh, Sean's ready, so we'll get Sean in once he's finished his minor celebrations.
Okay, well, we'll go over to you now in the pits then, Carl. We'll leave it to you.
Hi, so live from the pit lane. I'm just trying to beckon over Sean Briley. He's still chatting away, so I'll just interject and get George Massey. So just here, we've got debutant George Massey. Now, the first laps he ever done of this place was going out for his Super Pole lap. So that's quite a scary sort of cauldron to throw yourself into. He's just getting his helmet off, and I'd just like a quick word to see what his thoughts are on it. So, George, well done. That was obviously a very difficult thing to do. You've never driven at this place before. How did you find it?
It's good fun. I mean, you're driving against some of the best people in the world here, so it's not easy at all. Especially, I've never been to the track before. Last minute, just sort of like they needed someone to jump in, so I helped out. But yeah, no, it's crazy. It's very difficult out there.
I think you did a sterling effort. Well done.
Cheers, thank you.
Right, so we'll just try to grab Sean now. I'll just go and tap him. Here he is. Right. So, can you come this way? Yes. So, Sean, drive like a bird, look like a bee. Sean Briley. How did you find it? It looked rather serene, looked very calm. You managed to pull a gap. Looked a bit boring. Was it boring for you?
No, not at all. I'm glad I made it look that way. It wasn't. I was pushing every lap to try and get any gap I could. I got blocked by a back marker on one lap, and I thought I came off worse, but I think Dawid and Brad lost their reference point. So I started eking out a bit, and when I got to 2 seconds, I was like, good, I can now take a nice, comfortable pit stop, come out ahead, and then just go to the end of the race. But no, I'm really happy.
Well, it's a great way to start. So you must be confident of the final this year.
Sorry?
You must be confident of the final this year.
No one's confident for the final this year. The grid's way too strong to be confident for a final. You know, that's what my goal is. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Brilliant, well done. I've got a medal for you. Yes, there you go. Right, okay. So that was Sean Briley. I'm now going to try and get David Kart. Is over there. I might just need to go and disturb him a bit.
My English is not good. Really fast, yeah.
Yeah. So David, fantastic first race, very strong second place.
Yes.
Yes. Are you happy?
Yes, I am happy. My start is the 3rd position, yeah. Really hard race. 2 place, really nice.
Good one. Well done. Very strong performance.
Yeah.
I'm just looking around for Bradley Philpott. I think I've run out of time there, so I'll have to throw back up to you, James.